Hi, it's Carrie. In Part 3 of Searching School, we are going to discuss combining search terms with Boolean operators. Expert searchers must learn to combine long lists of search terms effectively. This requires understanding Boolean logic and how AND, OR, and NOT operate in a database query. AND narrows your search down and should be used between opposing concepts. In the example we've used previously, we would want to look for both aromatherapy and postoperative nausea and vomiting. You want literature that has both concepts, not one or the other. And is the correct operator to use to narrow down your search when you are looking for literature that contains two or more concepts. Or gives you more. Or makes your search broader and should be used between synonyms. Let's say you're interested in aromatherapy, which will be spelled together as one word, as two words, with a hyphen, and you'd accept other variations. In this case, they should be combined with OR. I want you to remember this for later because this is an example of using keywords, which we will learn about in Part 5. You'd accept any of these variations on aromatherapy, so OR is the appropriate operator to use. No two publications will use the same terminology, so your search should be broad enough to return results that may have variations in spellings, use synonyms, homonyms, acronyms, and even antonyms. Now you understand AND and OR. Some searchers choose to do this in what's called line-by-line searching, where each line represents a small part of the overall search, and each line is later combined to create larger concepts that are then combined with each other for a final search. Here's an example of line-by-line searching as documented in this review by Mehta et al. It is acceptable and appropriate to build searches this way. If you're building your own search, be careful. Make sure the lines are combined correctly through continuous testing and eventually peer review. If you end up evaluating someone else's search, pay careful attention to the way that the lines are combined, as there are occasionally errors. Other expert searchers will choose to do what's called text block searching or whole concept searching. This is also correct. You can build searches this way if it makes more sense to you. The way you run the search, either line by line or text block, won't affect the results if your search terms are the same. Do lots of testing, by which I mean running different search terms and portions of the search string to make sure that your terms are combined correctly. And if you are evaluating someone else's search, you'll want to look at the ANDs and ORs to make sure they make sense and are used appropriately. Here's an example of text block searching as documented in this systematic review by Hansodi et al. Both ways of building searches are correct and acceptable. The most important thing to be aware of is to make sure that your terms are combined correctly to create larger concepts and that your concepts are combined to create an effective search. Here are two things to be aware of. Number 1, lots of searchers choose to use NOT as an operator for combining search concepts. For example, they may create a large search, but they do not want to see certain populations, subcategories, or publication types. They may have something like Concept 1 and Concept 2 not editorials, or Concept 1 and Concept 2 not pediatrics. This can be very dangerous for systematic searching, as databases are not always working with optimal metadata. That is, the data each record has been assigned. If it makes sense for you to use NOT, and you are justified in doing so, you can do it. But be very careful because you might miss something important. Number 2. Lots of searchers use proximity and adjacency operators to formulate a search. A proximity or adjacency operator tells the database to find words when they are near or within X number of words from each other. Depending on the database, these usually look like near, next, W, N, or ADJ with a number. This is an acceptable way to search. However, I don't use it very often and especially not for systematic searches. There's just too much variation from database to database in syntax and querying, and I have preferred either phrase searching or pairing important words together with AND instead, which increases recall, but will work the same in every database. If you are peer reviewing a search that uses proximity or adjacency searching, look for the database or platform documentation on how proximity and adjacency operators should be used, and make sure that they are used appropriately. In Part 4 of Searching School, we'll talk about how to apply subject headings for maximum efficacy in searching.